so I wanted to use Johnny Depp as an example because he is super shy. To me, that's so interesting. Hello and welcome to FlaawsomeTalk. I am Kjersti Flaa. I am an entertainment reporter, journalist. I've been interviewing celebrities for 15 plus years. I'm not going to say how many years because then it makes me feel really old. But I'm sure if you browse around on my channel, I think I have like 500 interviews here. So I'm sure you're going to find some of your favorite celebrities. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to my new subscribers and to the subscribers that are coming back. I really appreciate all your support. I have seen so many beautiful comments, and especially since last time when I posted that I was in the New York Times and I was on the cover and I was super excited, and you guys were congratulating me, and I appreciate it so much, and it makes this so meaningful to me. It's interesting because I feel like what I'm doing right now is so much more fulfilling than actually the work that I've been doing as a reporter. I mean, I enjoy, of course, when I have great interviews with people, but this, just like having this direct communication kind of with you guys, is just so fulfilling for me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your support and sweet words and for subscribing. And yes, please keep them coming. Please leave comments if there's anything you want me to talk about, or if there's something you don't want me to talk about, or if you have any questions in general. That was a fly. Since last time I posted a video, I had this amazing opportunity that came to me. Just a few weeks ago, I got a phone call from the one and only Dolph Lundgren. If you don't know who he is, he's a huge action star. He was in a lot of movies in the 80s and 90s. He's mostly known for playing Ivan Drago, the Soviet Union villain in Rocky IV. And that's basically his first really big role in general. And now, after so many years, he decided to do a documentary about himself. And then he asked me if I wanted to be the one who interviewed him throughout the whole documentary. And of course I said yes. This is so amazing. And I was like over the top excited about this. And it was the most amazing experience I had in a very, very long time. So we filmed here in Beverly Hills on Sunday, and I think we spoke for about 9 hours. He was so open about his life, he was talking about all his ups and downs and really getting into it. It felt like a 9-hour therapy session in a sense, So I think this movie is going to be really amazing and very encouraging and inspiring for people. He's got such an amazing story. He came from Sweden, obviously, and he had a really rough childhood. He came to Hollywood, he partied and went crazy. Then, reality hit, and I guess you have to see the movie to actually see what happened in his life. He's in a good place now, and I was just like, this is so amazing. But what I wanted to say is, when you do projects like that, it's a completely different, obviously, situation than doing 4-minute interviews that I've been doing a lot, that I've been sharing on this channel. So I was actually talking to the producer of the film, and he said, people don't realize how exhausting it is to sit on the receiving end and being the interviewer, because you have to be focused and stay focused and be such a good listener throughout all those hours. And, also keep track of time, because there is a limited amount of time. Even though you have so many hours, you're going to talk about someone's life. So there's a lot going in there. And then some people talk, like to talk a lot, and sometimes you get short answers. So it is a lot of challenges. But he said to me something that I've been speaking about here before, which I think, is so important in these kind of films about people's lives, or in documentaries in general. He said, I love that you just waited and listened and never interrupted, and you just sat there. And there was silence sometimes, because he says the magic happens a lot during those times when it's silence. And I couldn't agree more. And I've talked about that here on my channel as well, how I use that. And he said that he had recently done a documentary with someone who, didn't deal well with talking about trauma, and then so he made fun of it and made jokes when he was talking about trauma. But then after he made the joke, he kind of went inside himself and had this and you could see the emotions coming out. And And I think that's so important. I think in general in life, it's such a good, important thing to be a good listener. And especially when you're interviewing people, to have that connection with them. Because if, when you sit and you look down at your notes, you are going to lose that magic that you have with that other person. And doing that for so many hours, not looking at the notes, just like getting in there and then remembering all the follow-up questions, that of course I had a lot of questions going there. I had everything lined up, but throughout, he might say something that's, that I'm thinking in the moment, that's really interesting. We should elaborate on that. And so you have to be on your toes. And I think that I'm just so excited to see the movie. I think it's coming out next year. So they did shoot for like 3 years already. So this was kind of the final piece that was missing. So I hope all of you get to see it. I'm super excited. Another thing I wanted to mention was that I just saw a few days ago that Chris Pratt came out and talked about being professional on set, which I think, I'm so glad he said that, because I feel like that's the thing that I've been saying a lot here too, that, even though if you have a bad day, you have to be professional about it. And the same thing goes for people on set. He said something like, you can't have a bad day, you're just going to ruin it for everyone. And I totally agree with that. And he said like, oh, are you having a hard time living your dream? And I kind of like that. So thank you, Chris Pratt, for saying that, because that's what I've been trying to say here. Doing these kind of interviews is also a part of the job. Just as much as being on set shooting the film, you have to be a part of the marketing machinery around it. So if you can't behave, don't do it. Go do something else. Yeah. I got a comment this week from someone asking me how I deal with nerves in these situations. And I have to say, and I think this goes for everything in life, if you're nervous about something that you have to perform, whatever it is, a job interview, whatever it is, just be prepared. And for me to be prepared means that I need to memorize. I not only do all the research for my questions, but I need to memorize them. And the way I do that, I found this technique that really works for me, that I envision the person sitting in front of me, and then I place the questions that I have on different places in the face of that person. So I would, for example, have different themes. I would have one question when I talk about juggling motherhood and career and whatever, and I put that question here. And then I put another question here and here. Eye, ear, neck, shoulder, one shoulder, their feet, their arms, their hands. And then when I look at that body part, I do remember the question that I was going to ask. And then I don't have to look down, and I won't lose that magic that we have together in that moment. I saw this interview with, I think it was a woman who was like the world champion in remembering names. And it was so fascinating. And she said, the techniques that she uses is when she meets someone and she sees the face of the person, she places that name on a piece of furniture in her house, because you know where all the furniture in your house is. So when you go through your mind to remember, you can just, attach it to different furniture in your house, or on the street that you walk every day, like anywhere where you can remember where everything is. She does that. So that's another technique you can use. I like to use the technique where I look at the person and then I remember. And then I also use the technique to remember follow-up questions, because if they say something really interesting that I want them to follow up on, I will use my own fingers for that. So I would have like, that's one follow-up question. So when I look at my thumb, I'm like, oh, I remember I have to ask him about that as well. So that's a little tip from me. If you're ever doing interviews, or if there's anything you have to remember ever, just have these techniques. People don't remember things just by remembering them. Everyone has, especially if you're going to remember a lot of things, most people have these techniques that they use to make them remember. I see quite often actually that actors are pretty shy, and you wouldn't think so. I mean, for me, I would never ever be able to go in front of all those cameras and act, because I am very shy. I've been very shy now, maybe not so much anymore, but growing up, I was super shy. I hated every time, I was in a classroom and the teacher asked me to say something, I just like hid, and I hated being in front of the class, and I just didn't want people to look at me and get that attention. And it's interesting because a lot of actors actually feel that way as well. And then when you interview them, you have to consider that they're shy. So you can't go in there and be like, wow. You have to get to the same energy level as they are. And so I wanted to use Johnny Depp as an example because he is super shy. To me, that's so interesting because, you know, he's playing these like, you know, big characters with so much personality and so much confidence, like Captain Jack. And then he is this very shy person. And I actually asked him about it in an interview, and this is what he said.
I don't know. I hope so. Well,
So you're kind of like the master of disguise in Hollywood, I feel.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
So do you think it's easier to get into a part when you can dress up in costumes, or is it easier when you're more like...
It's easier to lose yourself when you, like, for example, if you're in a period film and the costume makes you, it changes your posture, it makes you stand a certain way, it makes you feel a certain way. So it's like being wrapped up in the character's skin. And for me, it's always been easier is not the word, more comfortable for me to hide in a character. It's always more difficult when you're playing something that's closer to you, I think.
Are you a little bit shy, you think? Or?
I'm very shy.
You are?
Yeah. No. If I can be accused of anything at all, I'm not the most outgoing and boisterous of people. I'm pretty shy.
Yes, so Johnny Depp is shy and very sweet. I have to say, I know there's been so much controversy around him, especially after the divorce and the lawsuits and everything. I just have to say that Johnny Depp is one of those very few people that are just so genuine and so nice to everyone. And you can feel that as soon as you enter a room. He's just there. He gets out of his chair to greet you. He's just super polite. Luckily, when I did that interview I just showed you, he was in kind of a good place in his life. So he was, you know, he was able to do these interviews. But later on, I remember I went to Toronto at the film festival. He was doing a movie called Black Mass. Don't remember the year now, but he was the main character in the film, and he did not do any interviews. I remember I spoke to some of the co-stars. Joel Edgerton was one of them, and he didn't even know that he wasn't doing interviews.
You know, he's a little bit enchanting, you know, not in a romantic way, obviously, but like, there's something kind of like childlike and fascinating about him, and he has this fascination with the world and things around it. I mean, I think he's a very curious individual, but lovely.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you going to talk to him today?
No.
Why not?
He's not doing interviews.
He's not doing interviews?
And it was quite obvious that, you know, the studio didn't want him to, because he could not, like, he was basically drunk all the time. And I saw him at the red carpet, and he had this bodyguard, someone that worked for him, just like having to help him to walk through. And the thing is, you could see he wanted to stop and talk to people. He was just like, yeah, I'm here, I want to talk to you. But, you know, he wasn't able to. He could barely stand on his feet, and it was just very sad to see. And I've seen interviews, and I've been talking to colleagues about it, and they've, you know, told me things that he said in their interviews that was kind of like, whoa, pretty outrageous, that shouldn't be aired anywhere, because he just didn't care, and he was like, blah, 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 like, could barely speak in some of those interviews. So I know people have been, you know, criticizing him for what he did to Amber Heard or whatever, whose side you're on. But from my perspective, I have to say, every time that I've met him, he's just been such a doll. He's just so down to earth and nice. And I've seen him with fans, and he's just the most, you know, amazing guy that gives everyone attention. And he just wants people around him to, he sees people, basically, and that's very rare. I think especially if you're as famous as he is, that is a very rare thing. Anyways, thanks again for watching, you guys. I will post another new episode soon, so stay tuned, and please subscribe if you haven't, and leave comments and all that stuff if there's anything you want me to talk about, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you. I have a little gift for you from a friend of mine in Norway. She made you a dream catcher.
A dream catcher? Oh,
Yeah.